Hi everyone and welcome to Book Boop. My name is Rachel and today I'm doing another edition of my Want to Read recent editions. I'm going to present 10 books to you that I have recently added to my Want to Read list on Goodreads. I tried to pick some books that you probably haven't heard of, some that are a lot less known. There's several books I've added to my TBR recently that I really would want to read, but they're also everywhere right now and I don't want to just keep repeating the same books that everybody else is talking about at the moment. So I wanted to show you some books that maybe you haven't heard of. Also, most of these books have a little bit of a spookiness to them, so I think they'll be perfect as fall recommendations as well. So get ready to write down some books to read because I think I have some good ones here for you. I've got some notes here as well as my Kindle so I can pull up some different images of the covers for you. It takes me a few seconds to kind of pull each image up, so please bear with me as I do this without edits because if you've been here for very long, you know I don't edit my videos, so I will try to be as quick and concise as possible for you. Another disclaimer though, I also want to say that this video may be slightly noisier than normal. I've got some windows open, my daughter and my husband are outside playing with bubbles and my daughter's very excited about it and she's been pretty noisy about it. So I apologize if you hear some extra noise or some cicadas or cars or those kind of things, but let's go ahead and get into it, okay? So the first book I want to share with you today is a very kind of heartwarming sounding middle grade with maybe a little bit of a creepiness to it, and it's called The Boy, the Bird, and the Coffin Maker by Matilda Woods. This story, all I know about it is it's about this man who's living in this small village and he is a coffin maker, but he lives alone and he lives a very lonely life and he's feeling really sad about that, and then he meets a boy who I believe is also lonely and a magical bird. That's all I know. But it sounds like it's really sweet, heartwarming, maybe a little bit of sadness in there, maybe slightly bit of creepiness in there because of the coffin maker part. I don't know. But the cover is beautiful. The premise sounds really beautiful, and I'm excited to give this a try. I have seen this one around a little bit around BookTube, but I haven't heard of anyone that's read it yet. I've seen videos of people who have been like, I want to read this, but haven't seen any reviews yet, but it just sounds like it's really, really sweet. This next book is jumping more into adult horror. And I'm really excited about this one because this sounds so unique and I'm so pumped about it. And it is called Hoorostor by Grady Hendrix. Looking at this cover, what does this look like to you? Does this look like an IKEA catalog? Because you're right. This is a classic haunted house type of story but set in a contemporary setting. It's about a large furniture store that is having some hauntings in it. Things are moving during the night, creepy stuff's going on, and they're trying to investigate and figure out what's going on in the store. Also, from the cover you can tell as well that it has a little bit of a mixed media presentation to this book because the book is actually kind of presented and laid out like an IKEA catalog, which sounds like so much fun. I really want to read this one. I'm hoping to get my hands on it really soon and to hopefully maybe read it in October because it sounds like a perfect October read and it just sounds like a fun, creepy book. I'm really excited about it. I'm definitely gonna have to get my hands on it. I don't want to read it on a Kindle. I want to get a physical copy. My library doesn't have one, so I may just need to have to pick up a copy for myself because this sounds like fun. I'm so excited about the idea of this book. All right, the next one, we're gonna jump back into middle grade again, and this one is called The Girl and the Ghost by Hanna Alkaf. And this story, we have this girl where I think a ghost is, or I think they call it a shade or something, I don't know, some kind of ghost is basically a family ghost and it's inherited down to like different people in the family, and this girl has just inherited her grandmother's ghost. It's not the ghost of her grandmother, it's the ghost that used to hang out with her grandmother. If that makes any sense. I think that's what it's about. But she becomes friends with this ghost and they're like pals and it's all great until her ghost starts to show a little bit more of a dark side and it starts to affect her. So it sounds like it's going to be kind of like a friendship story but a spooky story at the same time. So I think it would be a lot of fun. Sounds like a really great sort of fall middle grade book for a cozy night in. You know what I'm saying? All right, next one is, I'm hoping, a redeeming book because I recently tried to read a vampire focused book recently and I was not happy with it at all. It was The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I tried reading it, I DNF'd it, did not like it. It was just too angsty for me and I wasn't into it. But this one I'm hoping is going to be a saving grace. And it is called Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang. I think that's how you pronounce it. What I know about this book is it takes place in New York City in 1899, and it is a vampire murder mystery. Sounds great. So what I know about this is we have this girl who's living in New York City in 1899, and her sister is murdered, and the way the murder happened makes it look like it was a vampire, and also mentions in the description of the book that within this particular time period, the novel Dracula just came out. So there's a lot of like vampire interest at the moment in this certain time period. So it's a murder mystery trying to figure out how her sister was killed, possible vampire. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to be like actual vampires or not, but it sounds like fun. And also the main character has a addiction to opium, I believe, as well. And so she's dealing with that too. And so because of that, her brain kind of blurs between what's real, what isn't, that kind of thing. So sounds like fun. Sounds kind of historical fiction-y. Sounds very paranormal. I'm excited about it, and I love the cover. The name of it's really cool. I just think it sounds like a really fun book, and it's a YA, I believe. So again, sounds like a perfect October read. I mean, I think it sounds awesome. All right, this next one is jumping back to middle grade again. I have a lot of middle grade on this list, and this one sounded really interesting to me. It's called Quintessence, I think that's how you pronounce it, by Jess Redman. In this, we follow a girl who is suffering from panic attacks. And what did I write on the description here? Let's see. A panic attack suffering girl goes on a quest to help a magical new friend. That seems like the best way to describe it. She sees this falling star, and then she goes to see it, and it's actually like a person, but it's like a magical person from somewhere else, and she's trying to help this person go back to their home. She also suffers from panic attacks and feeling really lonely, and it just sounded like a really interesting like magical concept, but really grabbed me was the fact that this girl suffers from panic attacks. I like seeing that representation, and I'm interested to see how it's represented in this book, because I too suffer from panic attacks. I have for like 10 to 12 years, and I'm really interested to just see how it's represented in this book. And as a middle grade, I think it'd be interesting to read as well, because I've seen it represented in some YA, and I think a little bit adult, but not in middle grade before. So I'm interested to see how it's handled in this book in a middle grade style. And it sounds really magical and really sweet. So I think it sounds like fun. Not necessarily super fall, but it sounds like a very cozy book, which is a good time. All right, this next one is very different from what I normally read. I think it's a middle grade, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me see if I can, here we go. It's called All He Knew by Helen Frost. Let me read what I wrote down here. It's about a deaf boy during World War II, written in verse, and it's inspired by true events. So it's supposed to be about this little boy who is deaf. He's very bright, but he struggles with communication. Because of that, people assume that he's not smart. They assume that he knows nothing. They assume that he's basically worthless and not able to do anything. And during World War II, he ends up getting sent to this home, I guess, or something, not like a hospital, but I don't know, just some kind of home. And then he becomes friends with someone who kind of realizes his true potential. But I'm really interested not only in the story and having this representation of a deaf person, but also that it's inspired by true events and also written in verse. I don't think I've ever read a book that's written in verse before, and I've been wanting to. There's been several books in recent years that have been written in verse that I'm wanting to read, like Clap When You Land by Elisa Acevedo, I think that's how you pronounce her name. So there's several books kind of out now that have that, and this one just sounds really interesting to me. It sounds heartwarming, heartbreaking. I just think it sounds like a really interesting book, and I'm excited to give it a try. So I think that one's going to be really fun. Let's jump back into some creepy books, shall we? So I've got a nice little witchy YA for you called A Wicked Magic. This cover is so cool. That's what drew me in with this book, was the cover. It's by Sasha Lawrence. And with this one, it's a modern witches must save teens stolen by an ancient demon. It's a fantasy thriller. Sounds like a good time. I think they said it was like a mishmash of Sabrina and something else. So it's about these teenage witches where some crazy stuff's happening and they have to try to save the day. It sounds dark and creepy and magical, and I am for it. It sounds legit like a perfect October read. And that cover is so cool. I love it so much. I'm really pumped to try this one out, hopefully very soon. I may try to read this next month. I don't know, because it sounds really, really cool. All right, I've got 3 more for you. This next one is back to another middle grade, but it's a creepy one. and it is called Crater Lake by Jennifer Killick. This one I didn't have too much a description for, other than that it's supposed to, oh, here we go, a spooky school trip gone wrong. The description reminded me of Small Spaces. I can't remember the name of Catherine Arden's the name of the author for that one. And that one is about a group of students that go on a field trip, and then it gets real creepy, really scary real quick. That's what this one sounds like. It's a group of students that are going on a field trip or like a weekend trip or something, and then they get there and some really creepy stuff starts going on. And the kind of like side line that's on here is don't ever fall asleep. It just looks creepy. It sounds creepy. And in the description, I think it said school trip from hell. And I was like, yes, please. I will read that. So this is another creepy sounding fantastic middle grade, and I'm so for it. Can you tell I really love creepy middle grades? I love them so much. They're just so creepy and pure creep without like the drama of YA. It's so good. If you've not tried some like spooky middle grades, please do. It's worth it. Speaking of, I've got another one here for you. And this one sounded really, really cool too. Let's see if I can find the cover. Where are you? While I'm talking to you, I know that it's called, here we go. It's called Scritch Scratch by Lindsay, Currie. The notes I have for this one here. A ghost story about a malevolent spirit, an unlucky girl, and a haunting mystery that will tie the two together. So I believe this is about a girl who gets on this bus or something, and there's a ghost on this bus, and it follows her home, and she has to like work on the mystery with some stuff, and it sounds creepy. I love the name of this. Scritch Scratch just makes me think of like being a kid and being afraid of the boogeyman. I don't know. It just has that kind of spooky vibe to it. And the cover is beautiful. Almost looks like a painting. It's so pretty. Okay, last book for you. And this one, I believe, is an adult kind of historical fiction-ish book. And I think it's been out for a while, but I hadn't really heard of it before. I don't know, maybe if it's just like, maybe it has a new cover now, or I don't know. I haven't really heard of it. It is called The Witches of New York by Amy McKay. This is a story that takes place in Victorian New York during the height of seance popularity. From what I could read in the description, it sounded like real witches that are staging themselves as performers. They're performing seances and things like that, but they really are witches. So it's like they're getting paid to do sort of like this witchcraft type stuff, but people think it's like, people want it to be real, but they probably think it's fake, but they're actually real witches. I don't know. It sounds really interesting. Sounds like a really cool mix of like a historical fiction and paranormal. And I think it sounds like fun. And I love the cover. I love the sound and feel of this book. It just sounds, to me, this feels like a November book. Like October, yes, but this one just feels like, I don't know. It feels like a dark academia book to me, even though it's not. I know that doesn't make sense, but anyways. That one sounds really cool too. So those are all the books that I wanted to just share with you to see if maybe you're interested in them as well. Let me know down below if you've read any of these. If any of these stood out to you, let me know if like there's a certain book in this list you're like, oh, I'm adding that to my TBR. Like let me know if you add any of these to your TBR. Also, if you have any recommendations, leave them down below for myself and all who will read all the comments. Just put some recommendations below as well. Maybe something you've added to your TBR recently. On this side of the video over here is my logo. If you click on that, you can subscribe to my channel and follow me on my book journey. On this side of the video over here is a suggestion for another video if you want to watch another one right now. Thank you so much for watching. You rock, and don't forget to keep reading. Bye!